how do you dominate Google? How do you bring in millions of dollars of additional revenue for your law firm on Google? And the first and most important concept within this is what I call the FFWA process. So the fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations process. So what I want to talk about is turning clicks into captured leads for your firm. And I always say, make platform commitments, but allow your strategy to be flexible. But if one of the strategies doesn't work, don't abandon the platform. Just swap out that strategy with a new one or scale up an existing one that's working. Welcome to another episode of the Law Firm Growth Acceleration Podcast. My name's Bill Hauser. That's Jade back there. I don't know if you can see my dog. Can they? No? Jade, you want to be on the podcast? Come here. You want to be on the podcast today? Yeah. So today we're going to talk about how do you dominate Google? How do you bring in millions of dollars of additional revenue for your law firm on Google? And this is a close place in my heart. When I started SMB Team, the only service that we provided for law firms was Google Ads management and landing page creation, and that was my love. It still is my love, even though I don't get as much time to, personally get into the Google Ads interface as much as I wish. But that's what got SMB Team started, was literally a obsessive focus on how do you generate revenue through this amazing high traffic website, google.com. Google is still the number one highest traffic website in the world. And some people make excuses, attorneys, that my clients aren't on Google, or I tried Google before, it was too expensive, it didn't work, I didn't rank, I didn't get leads. The bottom line is, it's either your strategy that does or doesn't work, but Google is the number one highest traffic website in the world for a reason. And the beautiful thing about Google for law firms is that, when people are in need, they go to Google. And most people who hire law firms are in need, right? So they go to Google regardless of how much branding has happened in their market, how many TV or billboard ads they've seen from a big spending attorney in a market. They still go to Google. They still type in XYZ attorney near me. And because of that, it's a monumental opportunity for firms to understand and to embed into their strategic plans for 2025 and beyond. So I'm going to break down the most important principles, since this has been quite, by popular demand, I'll say, from one of our last podcast episodes. I have received dozens and dozens of emails from people asking for the Grand Lawyer Marketing Plan course that I rolled out back when COVID hit. I've had about 500 during the year of 2020. I had about 500 law firms go through this course, and it basically breaks down 101 exactly where you need to spend your time and money on Google. And I'm going to break down some of the principles from a never released book that I wrote, which I actually have pulled up on my computer in front of me. This book is like 200 pages long, and I literally just never put it out. So I'm going to have to put this out at the end of this episode because it's literally just sitting here. And I need to make this public because it's all in here. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about before I go into this really important concept called the niche demand blueprint is first understanding that there's really three phases of dominating Google. The first is understanding what I call the word alignment marketing method, the WAM method as I call it, which basically means that the words that you use to attract leads are in line with the words that are going through your client's mind. So I call it word alignment because if the words that your clients use to seek your services are in line with the words that you use to attract those clients, then you are going to be in word alignment, and it's going to be really hard to make Google not work for you. So that's what we call the WAM method, and that's really the first phase. And the real, science behind this is what I call, not what I call, it's what is keyword research. And I'm going to explain keyword research and why it's like one of the most pivotal skills to crushing Google. And also remember, Google owns YouTube. So YouTube is, I know it's the second highest traffic search engine in the world. TikTok's creeping up. It's becoming more of a search engine. But it's a video search engine, right? And Google's brain kind of powers, both of these behemoth platforms, Google and YouTube. So what you learn in terms of word alignment that you apply to Google can also be applied in a slightly different way to your YouTube strategy. So that's word alignment. So we're going to go through that first. Then we're going to go through your client capture infrastructure. So this is basically like after you've gotten into word alignment and you start spending money and time on Google, then the next step is how do you capture clients from this word alignment strategy that we're going to go through. And then last but not least is traffic school, which is basically how do you scale up traffic so that you can get more and more eyeballs on your firm once you've kind of fixed A, your word alignment strategy, and B, your client capture infrastructure. So we're going to dive in first to the word alignment marketing method. And the first and most important concept within this is what I call the FFWA process. So the fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations process. FFWA. So the number one rule of marketing is to know more about what your client thinks and feels than your client knows themselves. That's the number one rule of marketing based on all the mentors that I've ever learned from and been grateful to learn from, is that if you can put yourself in the head of your prospective client better than they can even articulate their own thoughts, then you are going to succeed in marketing. And there's 4 categories, FFWA, of knowing what your clients think and feel. So let's break this down. Fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations. FFWA, right? Okay, beautiful. So once we understand the FFWA process, we are going to learn how to pull out what our clients' real fears are, what their real frustrations are, what their true desires or wants are, and what their real aspirations are. Once we can pull this out of our clients' minds, then we will become unstoppable marketers for our law practices, right? Now, the beautiful thing is this, is you're already an expert in this, right? Most of the attorneys who listen to this podcast have been on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of client calls. So you already know the fears that go through your clients' minds, what they desire, right? And this is really just about formalizing that and documenting that so that you can use it in your marketing messaging, right? So let's go through the first one, fears, right? So there are 3 baseline needs. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? At the very bottom, you have your health and survival needs. At the next level up, you have your security needs, right? And then at the level above that, you have relational needs. And then above that, you have self-transcendence, which is actualization, right? So most of your clients are dealing with survival level needs, right? Especially when they hire a lawyer. Either their freedom is being threatened, they've been injured, they are dealing with low level needs, right? So until a survival need is solved, or all the survival needs are solved of your prospective client, you never want to go to level 2, which is the security needs. A large way that people gain security is through financials, right? That's how you can buy, housing and afford clothes and food, right? So that's really security. Financial has become a method, one of the primary methods of security. And then you want to get to the relational needs. So you really want to solve the base core needs that your clients have regarding their case type. You want to solve those first, the low level needs, right? So let's talk about fear, right? What is the real fear of someone hiring a divorce lawyer? What is the real fear of someone hiring a criminal defense lawyer? What's the real fear of someone hiring a personal injury lawyer, right? example, is it actually that they want to get a divorce? Is that the actual fear? Is that the lower level need you're solving? Or is it fear of losing connection with my children, right? What's the real underlying need, right? Is it, being labeled as a felon in criminal defense? Is it their freedom being put in jeopardy, right? Is it losing their driver's license if they had a DUI and not being able to work, right? Is it, going bankrupt and the embarrassment that comes from that? What's the underlying fear that your client has, right? And what is the, fear of someone who hires a personal injury lawyer, right? The fear is like, there's this cultural understanding for people who don't understand what lawyers do that like a lawyer is going to rip me off, right? So like sometimes the fear is just fear of getting ripped off or fear of hiring a, sleazebag lawyer that's going to manipulate them and dupe them out of what they deserve, right? So it's these low-level needs. We talk about all these things in our firms, which is why it doesn't work when you do this. All the badges we have, all the success that we've had in court, all these amazing accomplishments we've had, but oftentimes our marketing misses these baseline fears that your clients actually have, right? Next is frustrations, right? Is, what are they really frustrated about, right? So this is very different than fear. Frustrations are the reasons that people don't hire a lawyer, right? If they're frustrated that, they think that I have limited options for, my rights in immigration because everything's just biased towards, my ethnicity or something like that. Are they frustrated about that? Are they frustrated about how the case actually happened, being in the wrong place at the wrong time? What are they truly frustrated about, right? And then what are their desires? FFWA, what are their wants? What do they really want, right? It doesn't matter if this is possible. It matters is that your client has had a passing thought about this. Do they want their case dismissed and an apology from the cop who mistakenly arrested them? I don't know. Do they want millions of dollars for a slip and fall case that has like $1 of injuries, right? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if what they want is accurate or solvable. From a marketing perspective, it matters that you know what's going through your client's mind, because this is then how you articulate a unique value proposition, unique selling proposition to cure those fears, cure those frustrations, and cure those wants and aspirations, right? So what are their true desires, right? Do they want to be a free citizen, right? Do they want to blah, 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 right? You get the point. And then last but not least is aspirations. What are they aspiring to in their life, right? Everyone has different aspirations, and it depends on your client cohort. Like if you serve a high net worth niche, maybe their aspiration is to sell their company for millions and millions of dollars, right? If you serve immigrants, maybe their aspiration is to start their own business in the United States because they're a legitimate citizen, right? If they're in divorce law, maybe their aspiration is to marry someone else, right? So like what are their true what are they aspiring to, right? So the FFWA process allows you to get into the mind of your client to ensure that your marketing messaging speaks to the words that are already going through your client's minds and mouths, right? And as soon as you get out of alignment with this, none of your marketing will work, right? So again, this is how you create a unique selling proposition, is you know your client's fears, you know what they want better than they ever did, right? So that's kind of the first part of FFWA. We first have to become really clear with what are the words going through our clients' minds, right? What do they think? What do they fear? And then we create what's called a niche demand blueprint, right? So a niche demand blueprint is where we start categorizing these words based on what I call demand buckets, right? So we start bucketing things together in terms of, how do I take, some of the words that my clients, think and type in, which is like, I want the best criminal defense attorney near me, right? That word's gone through your clients' minds at one point. That's not their deep fears and frustrations, but that word has gone through their mind at one point, right? And versus complex thoughts that they have, like, if I receive the breathalyzer in XYZ way, is that legal, right? That would be like a research terminology, and question and frustration and fear and situation your client may be doubting and questioning, right? And remember this, all the things that your clients think are going to be the things that they type in at some time, right? So you knowing what your clients think makes you a better marketer, especially on Google, but also very much so on YouTube as well, right? Okay, so there are a couple of different buckets of what I call, demand buckets within your niche demand blueprint, right? So again, look at this as ways to categorize the ways that people seek help from a law firm like yours. Okay. Number one is what we call core keywords, right? Core keywords. These are the words that people type in when they're not expressing a fear or a frustration of their own. They're just going online and typing in criminal defense lawyer, or divorce lawyer, or car crash attorney, or immigration lawyer, or visa lawyer, right? So a core keyword is a word that someone types in when they are most likely to be in demand for your legal services, right? Now, core keywords are also the most competitive. They're kind of like the S&P 500. It's like over time, core keywords work with the most limited amount of failure rate, right? Because they're sure thing keywords, right? They're the things your clients certainly type in when they are in need of a lawyer, right? And quite frankly, most marketing campaigns should go after core keywords, because core keywords are the lowest risk of failure, because they're not really creative. I mean, if you show an advertisement or you write a blog post for, how to pick the best criminal defense lawyer in XYZ state, chances are you're going to get in front of people who want to hire a criminal defense lawyer if that blog post ranks online, and or if you show ads on Google for criminal defense lawyer near me as a keyword, right? So they're sure thing keywords. Okay. So then next, so those are core keywords. That's bucket number one. So understanding what are all the different ways that prospective clients in your market type in the core keyword of your practice area, right? And I'll come back to this in a second. All right, the next one is high value keywords, right? So these are keywords that are indicative of higher value case types within your firm, right? So core keywords, look at these as bucket industry terms, like personal injury lawyer, car crash lawyer, criminal defense lawyer, right? Like I just went through. High value keywords would be something like felony lawyer, right? With a higher likelihood of having a higher value case come. That's why it's called high value keyword. Higher value case will come if you get an ad in front of someone who types in those keywords. Okay. Next would be an example, would be something like, let's say motorcycle accident lawyer, right? Obviously, motorcycle accidents on average are higher average fee per case than the traditional car accident, right? So that is another example of a high value keyword, right? Another example of a high value keyword would be something like high net worth divorce lawyer, right? So thinking through and brainstorming for your practice area, what are all the words that people would type in when they're seeking out a high value case type that I serve within my firm, right? Okay. So that's high value keywords. So you have core keywords, high value keywords. All right. Next one is high traffic keywords. High traffic keywords. Okay. What is this? These are the words in a local market that get typed in the most frequently. Okay. So this would be something like lawyer near me without indicating your practice area. This would be like the word car accident without the word lawyer, right? This would be like, if you're a workers' comp lawyer, this would be like the word workers' comp, right? A high traffic keyword is something that is typed in more frequently than your core keywords or your high value keywords, right? So these are traffic generators, okay? If you're a DUI lawyer, example would be DUI, DUI laws, right? So it's words that people type in more frequently, hence why it's called high volume keywords, high traffic keywords, okay? Next is research terms. A lot of money can be made in research terms. Okay, example, how to file divorce in X state. What are you doing, Jade? How to file divorce in X state, okay? So that would be a research term. Oftentimes, how to is the lead in for a research term, right? How to get green card in X area, right? Or if I am in X situation. Car accident settlement average in X state, right? So research terms are terms that are, some high traffic keywords are actually research terms, right? But research terms are when people are researching things about a specific type of case, and they're doing this so that they can learn more information about what they're entitled to before they contact the lawyer in most cases, or after they hire a lawyer when they're doing their own research to figure out whether the lawyer is doing the right stuff for them, right? So these are research terms, and you can make so much money from research terms because they are tremendously cheaper than the core keywords, the core bucket terms in your local market. If you're spending like $100 a click on a criminal defense lawyer keyword in your market, DUI laws plus your state name, that may be $2 per click. Now, you're not going to get percentage-wise, you may get 100 clicks on that DUI laws state name keyword, which is a research term, right? You're going to get a lot more clicks on it, but per click, you're going to get less leads. But oftentimes, we see that your overall cost per lead and therefore cost per case is cheaper when you can leverage research terms in the right way. And there's a little caveat here. There's a reason that research terms are cheaper, right? It's a little harder to sell a research, someone who typed in a research term because they aren't fully in market ready to hire a lawyer, right? So yes, some lawyers you launch these keywords for, and they call them tire kickers. Other lawyers look at this as, man, this is a huge opportunity. I'm getting leads at 1/3 the cost. If I just get a little bit better at sales and my intake process and I can convert these, I'll be cutting my cost per signed case in half, right? So research terms are huge opportunities. Next is what I call arbitrage terms, right? So these are terms that are not directly related to your practice area, but are kind of tangential. So for example, would be like if you're workers' comp, an example would be like workers' comp doctor, right? Instead of divorce lawyer, family therapy, family therapist near me, right? Car accident chiropractor, right? Marriage counselor, auto repair near me, car collision repair near me, right? There may be terms that your target client types in, like, private planes. Let's say you serve like really wealthy people, and that's your target client. They may type in terms like, private planes, and that's still your target demographic client, but it's a word they type in when they're not looking for a lawyer directly. Now, ideally, from a marketing perspective, you want to go into tangential things that are really close to your area of law so that you can bridge the gap more easily. So that's arbitrage terms. Then we have some magic, which is negative keywords, right? This is another category. So let's say that you only do, let's say you do a fee-based practice area, criminal, family, immigration, estate. You obviously want to consider negative keywords, which are basically words you do not want to market under. These would be words like pro bono, free, cheap, right? Stuff like that. When someone types in pro bono, free, or cheap, you want to have a list of negative keywords that are indicative of of words you do not want your advertisements to show up for, and words you do not want to include in your advertisements as well. So those are negative keywords, as we call it in this niche demand blueprint exercise. If you do car accidents, you obviously don't want to show your ad when someone says at fault, right? Car accident lawyer. If you don't do federal cases, you want to exclude the word federal, right? So these are words you don't want to show up for. Here's the key. It's cheaper to show an ad when someone types in pro bono criminal defense lawyer, right? It's cheaper because a lot of the smart criminal defense lawyers don't show their ads for that term. But can some criminal defense lawyers, can some potential clients who type in pro bono criminal defense lawyer, can some of them be persuaded to hire a legitimate lawyer during a sales call? Of course, right? So just because you know the words you don't necessarily want to market yourself as, that doesn't mean you can't market under those keywords. You are allowed to show your law firm's ad for any keyword in the world that you want to bid on, right? So if someone types in pro bono criminal defense lawyer on Google, you're allowed to show your law firm's ad even if you're not pro bono. You just can't misrepresent it in the headline of the ad and say, we're pro bono, when you're not. You could just put your law firm's name on the headline of the ad and say, hey, considering a pro bono lawyer, consider a different option, right? So, don't make that mistake, or something like that you could put as like the headline of the ad, and that's a way to capitalize on cheaper traffic that a lot of people don't want and turn that into opportunities for your firm. Next one is geo-specific keywords. So these are words that have a locale included in them. So this would be something like Philadelphia lawyer, best Philadelphia lawyer, best town name lawyer, right? This is a really powerful concept because most people don't market under these terms because they only want to market under their practice area. This works really well for firms that do multiple practice areas just by bidding on the town name plus the word lawyer. And then you can throw in negative keywords, exclusions. Let's say you do personal injury, criminal defense, right? Those are your two practice areas. And you want to bid on your town name plus the word lawyer, right? You want to show ads for that and market under that keyword. You can exclude all the practice areas you don't solve and the words within there. So you can exclude your ad from popping up when someone types in immigration, lawyer, town name, right? Divorce, lawyer, town name. You can exclude those words through negative keywords. But geo-specific words are things that people type in. I remember once I did research in the Vegas market, and there was like more searches per month for best Las Vegas lawyer than best injury lawyer Las Vegas, right? And that's because sometimes people don't know to specify their searches, right? They just go unconsciously on Google. They just think best lawyer and town name. They don't think to specify a case type. And many cases never get signed up by law firms because they're afraid to market on these general terms, which are way cheaper again. All these additional opportunities are cheaper per click. But obviously the trade-off is that you're going to get more unqualified leads, and you have to be ready to handle that. But who cares, right? If you have to go through double the unqualified leads, okay, let me back up. If you are spending $5,000 on internet marketing to generate one signed case, right? And you found a method, instead of spending $5,000 to get one signed case, if you found a method to only spend $500 to get one signed case, right? Would you take that every day of the week? Of course you would, right? But what happens is attorneys aren't educated on the trade-offs here. They're not educated on the trade-off of going after these kind of niche pockets of demand that are less expensive, will get you more unqualified leads. They're not educated on that, so then they just go, it's crap. I tried this one strategy once. I got all these unqualified leads and blah, 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 right? And then they give up, right? And that's just why most lawyers don't market, is because the strategies that work sometimes and that are kind of outside the box create this objection and fear within the attorney that, like, I'm getting unqualified leads. No, you're getting much cheaper leads, and if you just build an intake process that could sift through those leads, you would be making a lot more money than you are right now. So, Geo-specific words are a huge opportunity. And the last category is competitor keywords, right? Now, I'm just stating a fact. The biggest billboard advertiser in your market, right? They are getting thousands of searches for their law firm over the course of a year, right? It just is what it is. The people who have the biggest top of mind awareness in your local market, people are going on to Google and typing in your competitors' names and not the word injury lawyer, right? In some cases. And that's another category of demand, right? Is knowing that your clients, when they type in best injury lawyer in my town name, best criminal defense lawyer, best immigration lawyer, blah, 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 sometimes in their internet searching chain, by the way, it's never one search that someone does to search for a lawyer. They may wake up one morning and think, I really need a lawyer for X problem. And their first search is best lawyer in XYZ town name. And then they think, I did see a billboard multiple times. Who's this person? Then they type in Joe Schmo Law Firm reviews, right? That could be their second search. Then their third search is, what rights am I entitled to in X situation? Research term, right? So the reality is it's never one search that someone makes to hire a lawyer online. They make multitude of searches, right? And every time you get in front of one of these searches, it's just one extra net you're putting out into the ocean to catch them as a client, right? So competitor keywords are a real thing. People type in thousands of times a month in some markets, the top competitors in that market, right? And just understanding that your clients are doing that. Yes, in certain states, you can actually bid on your competitor's name and show your law firm's ad. When someone types in your competitor's law firm's name, you can do that in some states, as long as you don't misrepresent, as long as your ad doesn't make it seem like it's their law firm. Like, you got to be clear about your law firm's name and that, you are not them. You can't use their firm's name in the ad, blah, 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 blah. There's rules around it. But you're allowed, again, in most situations, you are allowed to show an ad for your law firm on Google for anything that someone types in online, right? Barring some of the limitations in some states for the competitor keywords. If someone typed in, on Google, tic-tac-toe, okay, you can show your law firm's ad at the top of Google in a geographic radius surrounding your law firm, let's say a 20-mile radius, and show your firm's ad at the top of Google when someone types in tic-tac-toe, right? Google, yes, you're going to have a really low quality score, which is another conversation, but you can show your law firm's ad for any word that people type in, right? Okay. So that's why knowing these niche demand blueprint buckets are critical. I'm going to kind of summarize them for you real quick. Okay, so number one, we have core keywords. Core keywords, what is that? Again, those are the ones that are the bucket terms for your practice area. Number two is high value keywords. These are the ones that are indicative words that people type in when they're likely to have a higher value case for your firm. Number three, high traffic keywords. These are words that are higher traffic, higher volume searches, right? Instead of car accident lawyer, it would be like car accident or DUI laws, right? High traffic keywords. And we have research terms, okay? So research terms, again, are the things that typically start with how to, and it's when someone's in research mode. They're not looking for a lawyer in the moment that they type in a research term, how to file divorce, etc., right? Then we have arbitrage terms. These are typically less competitive terms that your ideal client would type in, but it's not directly relevant to the case, right? So again, I call this arbitrage because these are really cheap and big opportunities. Like, again, instead of workers' comp lawyer, workers' comp doctor. Instead of divorce lawyer, divorce therapist, family therapist, right? You can show your law firm's ad when people type in these arbitrage terms. Car collision shops near me. You can show a personal injury car crash lawyer ad at the top of these arbitrage terms, which are traditionally way cheaper because most lawyers don't think to bid on these, right? Next one I said is the negative keywords, right? So negative keywords are the exclusions, the words you don't want to market your law firm under. There's still an opportunity there, right? So that's negative keywords. Then we have the geo-specific keywords, right? These are the words that just include a town name, typically without your practice area being indicated, right? So that would be like, best lawyer Philadelphia, right? And then your competitor keywords. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. So those are what I call your demand buckets, right? So those are the buckets. So once we understand the words that are going through our clients' minds, FFWA. By the way, you can just do this by literally after a client signs up with you or during the sales process. This is a great fact-finding process. We've had clients of ours, one of my clients who's been with us for going on 5 years, Lance Fryrear, big criminal defense firm in Washington State. He implemented the FFWA process into his fact-finding process for new prospects. So he actually just asked them, hey, what's your biggest fears around this case? What's your biggest frustrations? What's your biggest want? And what's your biggest aspirations? And that actually improved the sales process. But as he documented the answers here, he realized that a lot of his marketing was not speaking to his core criminal defense clients' needs, and he had to reposition all of his marketing. And the answers that came from this actually fueled his YouTube strategy, which now he's brought in millions of dollars of fees from his YouTube strategy just by taking the fears, frustrations, wants, and aspirations that clients have, turning them into questions and then answering those questions on his YouTube channel. And this became basically the source of his topics when he first started his YouTube channel. Big fear that came in, he was selling all of his amazing accomplishments and stuff like all lawyers do, right? And then he realized, oh, wow, like a big fear that people have when hiring a criminal defense lawyer is, can I get away with just hiring a pro bono lawyer? Do I really need to pay for this? So here he was selling all these accomplishments his firm had. This is years ago, right? But the client's fear was, can I just hire a pro bono lawyer for this? Do I really have to pay for this? That was the real frustration, curiosity. So by not answering that question in your marketing, right, you're not handling that objection, right? And you're immediately jumping to, we're the best firm ever, but you're being insensitive to their real concerns, right? So by merging this, by knowing the words your clients type in and matching your marketing messaging to it, it's going to be really impossible to not see success in your internet marketing. That's the word alignment marketing method in a nutshell, right? So then once we dial this in, then we have to dial in our unique selling proposition, right? So our unique selling proposition is basically what I call your sharp dart messaging, right? So this is I want you to think of the sharpest dart ever, right? And you throw it right at the center of the dartboard, right? I want your messaging to be so sharp and dialed in that it hits the bullseye of your client's needs every time you share your unique selling proposition to someone who either is encountering your marketing or enters your firm's sales process. So I want them to shoot, right? I want you to have the sharpest dart messaging you could imagine. So what is a unique selling proposition? It's basically a way to differentiate your law firm and to show people in your local market how your law firm does things differently than the other firms in your market and how you attend to your prospective clients' needs better than the other firms in your market, right? So how do you create a unique selling proposition? This is super simple. You literally go through the FFWA answers that your clients give you, right? What their true fears and frustrations and desires are. You go through the list of their answers to this, right? And then you create solutions to those things, right? So the solutions would be things like, a lot of clients who, when they hire a lawyer, they're afraid of signing up, paying all this money up front, and then never hearing from the lawyer again, right? So we've created a automatic client update process where we send you a video update at the end of every 2 weeks telling you the status of your case and what work we did over those 2 weeks, right? Boom. Now you've taken a fear and frustration that prospective clients have or actual clients have, and now you've front-loaded that in your marketing, and you can say something like, we're the only law firm that we know of in X market who has a proactive client update process via video. So when you work with XYZ law firm, you're not going to be in the dark ever about what we're doing and the progress of your case. Boom, right? Unique selling proposition. That's one little hook, right? Then you have like, you know, the, you know, process of, you know, let's say it's, you know, criminal defense, or I keep using different practice area examples. It's like we've created, I love when people create a patented process, right? Or like you know, we have a 3-step process here at this law firm that has worked for the hundreds of clients that we've served. Step 1 is we blah, 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 blah. Step 2 is we da-da-da-da, and step 3 is we da-da-da-da, right? So, you know, let's say that the number one fear or desire that someone has is beating their charges, which when you look at some of the criminal defense studies we've done, like that's a big client, that's some words that come out of the client's mouth. Now, you can't guarantee we're going to beat your charges, right? Of course. But you can still say we have created a 3-step, you know, beat charges process, right? Or, you know, framing your client's fear into a step-by-step process so that you show them that you have a method to give them the highest chance of success within that bucket of their fear, right? So this becomes a blue ocean. And then this kind of allows you to differentiate yourself every single time a client reaches out to your firm, right? So unique selling proposition should be impossible to misunderstand. You don't want this to be sexy. You don't want your unique selling proposition to be like, you know, oh, we work hard and, you know, fight for justice and da-da-da. No. That's a tagline. That's not a unique selling proposition. A unique selling proposition is going to be really clear with a main differentiator, 3 supporting bullets, maybe a key proprietary process attached to it so that you can say, you know, here at XYZ law firm, we work really hard to, you know, make sure that X, Y, and Z problem is at the top of our mind through all parts of the process. And we believe it's so important that we've invented a 3-step blah, blah, blah process to solve dot, and dot. So the first thing that we do is da-da-da-da-da. The second thing that we do is da-da-da-da. And the third thing we do is da-da-da-da. That's what I mean by a unique selling proposition, right? Now, within this bubble of a unique selling proposition, the bullets and the sentences that you use within this can actually become things that you use in your advertisements, right? That differentiate your firm. So this stuff is mission critical to seeing success on Google, to seeing success really in any of your marketing, right? So, all right, let me see what I want to go into next. And we have a whole script for this. I'm kind of scrolling through this amazing, crazy book I never launched. All right, I'll probably do part 2 next time. I'll talk about like lead magnets and stuff like that as the chapter. But there's basically, I'll give you kind of a sizzle on this, and then I want to go back to how to make Google work. So, and tie together these concepts into an actionable plan for you. So once you have learned the word alignment marketing method, which I'm going to go deeper into in a second, then we need a client capture infrastructure process, right? We need to know how we turn clicks into phone calls and phone calls into signed clients. Now, obviously, you turn phone calls into signed clients through your intake process. So what I want to talk about is turning clicks into captured leads for your firm. So a big mistake that a lot of law firms make is their only value proposition is like free consultation, right? And that's kind of lame, right? So there's so many different value props that you can give people in the form of lead magnets to make it easier to capture their information. So an example of this would be like, let's say you create a divorce ebook for your state, which is basically, you know, something it's called like the 10 pitfalls to avoid when going through divorce in X state, right? So you'd create, you know, hire a graphic designer, write a 10 to 20 page kind of blueprint on all the most important pitfalls to avoid if you're going through a divorce in X state, right? And instead of constantly selling free consultation with your marketing, what if you were to just change the ask, right? And instead give someone a free piece of value, right? Like, hey, are you going through X, Y, and Z and da 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 da? Well, download my free ebook, right? Where I'm going to give you the 10 pitfalls that, people encounter in XYZ area, right? So that you can avoid them, so that I can help you avoid them for yourself, all right? So click the link below and get our free ebook. So once you've then gotten the ebook, right? Now, so let's say someone puts in their first name, email, and phone number to download the ebook, right? Then you can outbound call that person who downloaded the ebook, right? And you can say, hey, I saw you downloaded our How to Avoid Pitfalls in Divorce ebook. I wanted to make sure that you actually got it in your email. I work with so-and-so law firm, right? And then you can transition to, hey, let me ask, why'd you download the book, right? And then you can see if you have a viable opportunity there. But what we've found is that when you start using lead magnets, you are able to capture a tremendously higher number of leads for a much lower cost per lead. But it does require outbound follow-up for you to be able to follow up on those leads, right? So this is like getting creative in ways that you can provide value through lead magnets to capture more leads at a lower cost. The ultimate most important thing that comes from lead magnets is your email list, right? I always tell people, if you could get interviewed on the Oprah show when it was happening, would you? Yes. Why? Because do you realize how many unqualified potential cases you're going to get in front of, and out-of-state cases and irrelevant cases you'll be put in front of? Would you be put on the Oprah show? Would you agree to do that? Yes. Okay. So an attorney who answers this question just told me that qualified leads is not their number one priority, right? Attention is, right? Attention is their number one priority, right? At least a marketing-focused attorney, attention is one of the most important things. So I have another question for you. If you had an email list of 1 million people in your market, right? Let's say that there's a population of, 10 million people in your market, or way less. Would you take an email list of, if you had a list of every person's email in your market, let's just say 1/10 of every human being in your local market, and you had an email list of 1/10 of everyone in your market's name, email, and phone number, and you were allowed to just send a newsletter to that list, would you do it? Of course you would, right? If people opted in for something of your law firm, right, and they consented to, ongoing communication in some way, then you're allowed to nurture that list, right? So I want you to think about how can you capture as many names and emails as humanly possible in your market, and then how can you then nurture them on the back end through a newsletter of sorts, right? And let's say you have a ton of irrelevant potential clients on this newsletter. Who cares? You can just, let's say you're a local attorney and you serve the Minneapolis, Minnesota market, right? Put out a Minneapolis, best places to eat newsletter, right? And then at the bottom of the newsletter, just put your law firm's name and logo and sponsored by your law firm, right? It doesn't have to be anything relevant to your firm. Every now and then you can do a relevant post, but you definitely don't want to, let's say you're a bankruptcy lawyer and you have an email list of some people who are, considering bankruptcy, others who aren't. Regardless of who the person is, you don't want to send an email newsletter on, hey, are you a bankrupt person? Let me remind you of that through our newsletter. Bankruptcy message. No, you don't want that, right? People will unsubscribe from that newsletter really quickly. But if that same bankruptcy lawyer had 10,000 people's contact information in their market and just sent out fun places to eat, local news that was interesting, that got a high engagement rate, you would get more cases from nurturing your audience like that than you would by, trying to make it all about your law firm's specialty, right? And that's the power of lead magnets. That's what lead magnets do that make it such a powerful opportunity for law firms. So I'm going to do probably a part 2 on this. But I want to kind of back up to how do you take the niche demand blueprint, FFWA process, how do you implement that in your law firm today? Most important thing to do is to know your demand bucket. So what I would recommend doing is taking some time to brainstorm out take your top 3 practice areas of law or top 3 case types that you want more cases within, and just start mapping out and brainstorming. By the way, this has to come from you, not a marketing company. So brainstorm based on your amazing expertise of your local market, of your exact niche of client you want to serve more of that are the lowest headache, highest profit for your firm. Think about, just take one of those case types and then think through what is the core terminology that someone within this case type would type in. Then it's what are some of the high value variations of words that people would type in this cohort of demand. Then think through what are some of the research terms that people would type in? What are some of the arbitrage terms, right? And map all this stuff out, and your mind will be expanded to understand how much money you are leaving on the table by not putting out ads on these buckets of demand, not putting out lead magnets on these buckets of demand, not putting out YouTube videos on these buckets of demand and specific keywords and areas that you will open your mind to all the different ways that clients express demand for your law firm services. And we have had so many clients just from this one strategy, add millions and millions of dollars to their law firms just by understanding how to use the niche demand blueprint the right way and then executing that through a Google, YouTube, and or lead magnet strategy. So this is basically a glorified way of saying, learn how to do keyword research for your law firm. Learn how to use Google's keyword planner at ads.google.com. I don't know if that's still the link, but using their keyword research tool and just see. And in this tool, you can literally see how many times per month people type in all these different words in your market. Like, it is amazing. You can literally see how much demand there is in your local market for these terms, right? So, I remember for me, this exercise was like so critical. You know, when I started SMB team, I ran a Google Ads campaign marketing to lawyers when I started my company in my second year. And I had all these different buckets of demand, and I followed this exact process for myself. I was just doing Google Ads management at the time and landing pages, but I also launched, different groups of ads under law firm website design, law firm marketing company, law firm SEO company, law firm PPC company. I had all these different variations of ads that I was running for myself, right? And what I learned when I did this was I learned which buckets of demand actually produced an ROI for me and which ones didn't produce an ROI for me. And because I understood this process up front, I was able to not look at Google as a black and white, did it work or did it not work? I was able to understand that there's like a million different ways you could market to people on Google, a million different keyword variations you could market to. And when I launched my initial campaigns, if one of the 5 initial campaigns I launched didn't work, I didn't just say, oh, my whole campaign didn't work. I was looking for the pockets of demand that produced the highest ROI. Example on this, like when I marketed for law firm marketing company as a keyword, which you would think would be like perfectly relevant, right? Or law firm marketing or law firm SEO company. I marketed under these terms and I didn't sign clients. It was crazy. And yet when I launched ads for the keyword law firm PPC, which is a research term, I found out, right? When someone types in law firm Google Ads, law firm PPC, we signed up so many clients from that keyword group. But had I not segmented my buckets of demand previously, the overall ROI wasn't really that good, right? Because I had 4 other campaigns running that weren't working, that were weighing down the ROI of this one breakthrough success campaign, right? So we turned off the 4 that weren't working, and we scaled up the one that was working using the 80-20 rule, right? What are the 20% of inputs that produce 80% of the outputs? That was literally the 80-20 rule at work right there. And that same principle applies to Facebook ads, to Google ads. You know, only 1 in 5 of the things that you try are likely to work, right? So if you only try one thing a year, it's going to take you 5 years to find something that works. But if you try 5 things a month, right, and then you keep doubling down on the things that work, you'll end a year with 12 things that work amazingly, right? So the key is to try a lot of things. And I always say, make platform commitments, but allow your strategy to be flexible. So if I'm telling you, you should commit to Google and you should commit to YouTube, right? Commit to those platforms, right? Because they're the highest intent platforms out to this day, right? Commit to those platforms. Make a platform commitment. Then launch strategies within these platforms, right? But if one of the strategies doesn't work, don't abandon the platform. Just swap out that strategy with a new one or scale up an existing one that's working. So this is so critical that I wanted to spend a little time on this. And yeah, hopefully I can launch this book that's just sitting on my computer right now that's never been released on the Grand Laura Marketing Plan, which includes some information on this. So I'll see you in the next episode. And until then, keep it snazzy. San Diego. Isn't that what Ron Burgundy said? All right, I'll see you in the next one.